I think it was just recognizing that you cannot just make a decision based on a short space of time. You have to give something a good hope, which is firm, fair, friendly, and fun. I felt like I had already established myself in my career before immigrating. I felt confident in where I was, but then after the immigration process, I kind of felt like I lost some of that.
Welcome back, everybody. Yes, I am here again. I know it could be annoying to see the same face over and over again, but unfortunate for you, I am the podcast host, which means you don't have a choice but to look at my face or listen to my voice. So you gotta keep up. So no other choice. Deal with it. Meanwhile, I am Monisha. I am the podcast host of Newcomers to Trailblazers. We are available on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, YouTube Audio, YouTube Video. Please subscribe to us, like our channels, like our content. Also, hit that bell icon so that you will be notified. And the last two episodes we have spoken about power couple. We spoke about one of the couples, how they have achieved, what their challenges have been as an immigrant, how South Africa shaped them, and how Canada has shaped them, and a lot of other things. And today we have Irshad, one of the super couple, and trust me, like sober, absolutely. And we are going to talk more. And I would like to acknowledge that we are present in Coquitlam today, actually the traditional territories of Coquitlam First Nations. We acknowledge their presence here. And this time we are going to deep dive into Irshad's incredible story. We will explore his achievements, the challenges he faced as an immigrant, even with killer education. When I say killer, we're going to deep dive more there, and how he is giving back to help others. In our last episode, we followed their journey as a couple from South Africa. Now we are getting into personal deeds of Irshad. We'll hear about his hurdles as a newcomer, despite, and you won't even believe how much he has grown over the years and how his perspective has transformed over the years. So buckle up, get ready to be amazed by the one and only Irshad. And I'm gonna put this paper down for a second. Okay. How are you, Irshad?
I'm well. How are you?
I am wonderful as well. And we are doing this episode by 4:46 p.m. and I have been making them speak for a long, long time, and they have been very kind. Thank you so much for
Oh,
that.
you're welcome. No problem.
You have your water?
Yeah, all good.
Because this time you're gonna speak a lot.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Did I not say powerhouse? Let's start why I called him a powerhouse. So he is a PhD powerhouse. Irshad, you crushed your PhD while you were working full time. Working full time is hard enough, and this guy did a PhD, masters and a PhD while he was working full time. Talk about dedication. Like dedicate. This is pure dedication, and that must have been insane, right? How was that experience for you, and what kind of PhD did you do?
Um, so I'll start off with the easier question first. So my PhD is in public governance and IT.
Oh,
So essentially focused on how do we use technology in the public sector,
oh,
which was where my career had taken me in South Africa. I spent my entire career in the public sector, and I knew that that was where I was going to be.
okay.
So I decided to pursue the PhD in public governance with the focus on IT. So how was it? Was it challenging? Yes. And at the same time, my son was born at that time.
Ooh.
So when he was born, I was just finishing my master's. I had to write my final exams. He was born in November. I wrote final exams in January, and then I was done with the master's. And then
Oh my god.
I took about a year break, and then I went back to school while I continued to work and started the PhD. So yeah, what were the challenges having
Having a newborn baby and a
newborn
full-time
baby,
job and a
job.
PhD? Oh my god.
But I think for me it was just about being very well planned, well structured. So I would go to bed, and then from from 9 till midnight every day. Monday to Thursday was I would put in that time.
Okay. 9 to 12.
9 to 12 p.m. Yeah. So 3 hours every day. And on the weekend, I didn't do any studies, like unless I really needed to, because I still wanted to maintain the family time. And so, you have to prioritize and you have to give something up, right? And so I had to give up some of my sleep for a couple of years.
Oh my God. For a couple of years, he gave up sleep and he pursued a PhD while he was being a new dad and a husband. Oh my God, that's a lot of work. I don't know how you did it. I really appreciate it. It must have been crucial time management for you.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying, right? Like I had a very structured plan. So every weekday between those hours, if I stuck to that more or less,
you were
then
able
I just
to.
kept moving things forward.
Okay, very process oriented personality.
Process oriented for sure.
Yeah, okay. In the previous episode, when we were speaking, you mentioned that you landed in Canada with a job offer. And you also mentioned that you were treated a certain way differently just because your education, even though you have a stellar education, he just mentioned, you were treated differently, or there were some instances which were like not they don't look at you like as educated as they are or something like that, because you're coming from a developing country and developing country's education system. How was that experience for you?
It was very difficult. It was very emotional,
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can't really show all of those emotions, right? So you gotta find ways to deal with it. But it was demotivating at times.
Yeah.
And sometimes you actually start to question yourself.
Yeah.
Is this really true? Is there some substance to this? And I think that's the worst thing, that once you start to open up that can of worms, that's probably the worst thing that you can do. But I guess naturally it happens, right? You start to question, like, is there some validity to these kinds of perceptions?
Okay. Credentialing is a very big deal in Canada. Most jobs have credentialing. Some jobs do not have. Like, I think most jobs, I would say 85% of jobs have credentialing. And there is something called WES, which is World Education Services, which tells you and certifies you, saying that your education is equivalent to Canadian education, provided it was equivalent and the kind of credits you have had and everything. And in spite of that, you are going to be asked for more credentials when you land in Canada as a new immigrant.
Yeah.
And there are way many immigrant services that offers you the opportunity to sponsor you into getting that credential. The idea of getting credentials just in Canada and showing just that is very backward. Why I say that is because, the like you rightly mentioned in the previous episode, the kind of work you were doing were much advanced than what you are doing here, and I have experienced that too. The kind of work we do here is it is something that I would have done a decade ago.
Yeah.
A decade ago, and I'm still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but even though it's a developed country, there are certain nuances which takes a longer time to be put in place. Developing country moves in a very fast pace.
Yeah, and I think in some ways you don't have that history. You're starting off on a clean slate, right?
Yeah.
You're implementing something new because there was nothing before. And so when you start off with that new thing, you're going to kind of the more advanced, more sophisticated. Whereas if you have had certain technology or certain things in place for a long time, yes, so the pace, but also it's an evolution.
Yeah.
Versus just starting off brand new.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree, actually. It is.
And the other thing with the credentialing, it's what is also unfortunate is that the same paintbrush doesn't apply across the board. So if you let's say came from Europe or Australia with foreign credentials.
They would agree?
It would not be viewed in the same way.
Wow. Okay, I didn't think of it that way. I understand when you say it. Okay. Now I can put it into place because some of my friends who are from Australia didn't face the challenge that I faced. Now I understand why it was like that. Strange. Okay. And we mentioned that you are a very process oriented high achiever, right? Give us some hacks, mate. Like, I also do multiple things, but I'm not really very excellent at it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to get PhD any soon. But what is your secret to high achieving hacks? What like how do you stay motivated to achieve your goals all the time?
I think prioritization is important, right? Like I think you have to be real and pragmatic, like set achievable goals.
Yeah.
There's many things we would all like to achieve, but we can't do everything, right? So something has to give. So balancing, prioritizing, and I guess being very structured. Like that's just my approach. And so Vishad and I are very different in that way. In that
he's the creative person, and you're the
a
more
lot
structured
more
person.
Spontaneous. Whereas I kind of like to have things well planned and understand, what's the next steps and how we're going to get there and all of that. But that's kind of just me.
Okay. So because you have mentioned you follow a structure and you're very organized, if I have to put it, and you plan your time very well, you prioritize your tasks very well, everything is on calendar. I understand that. What kind of leadership, because what kind of leadership in the workplace that you work, what kind of leadership does that translate into?
Oh, okay. So I describe my leadership style as 4F, which is firm, fair, friendly, and fun. So those are like the things that I try to bring into my workplace. There's times when I can be and will be firm when I need to, and my colleagues and my team know that my approach is fair. But I also like to ensure that our environment is fun.
Okay.
Like, the work that we do, we spend so much time at work that we are having some fun along the way. Just sometimes it's just laughs at silly things and whatever,
Okay.
and establishing that kind of relationship and camaraderie. And I think it's also important because like when things get stressful, you can kind of just rely on each other in that way. Okay. I would agree. And the 4Fs, I'm going to put that somewhere. I'm going to put it here. When he says the 4Fs, I'm going to just put it here. What are the 4Fs again? Firm, fair, friendly, and fun. Yeah, this is coming up. Please take a screenshot. All right. We touched a little upon your workplace and what kind of leader you are. And you work as chief architect for BC Hydro. Yeah. Now, when I say architect, not the house architect, he's a tech architect. Okay, let's understand the difference there. He's a tech architect, am I right? Yeah, he's a tech architect. And what does your typical day look like? Like, what kind of work do you do? What kind of different teams do you have? And if somebody has to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you and things like that? So my scope of work is broad, portfolio is broad, so it covers everything to do with technology. So that includes systems, data, infrastructure like hardware and cybersecurity. In the BC Hydro context, cybersecurity is a big priority for us. Yeah. And so those are some of my core functions, and I have a fantastic team that focuses on each of these different areas. And my role is really about strategizing and ensuring that we know where we're going. We know where, as technology changes, new things are happening, new threats are emerging that we're planning and we're prepared for it, and we're making strategic decisions about where we're going in the future. So, what are we changing? What are we keeping? What are we going to be evolving? What are we moving to the cloud? Those kinds of things. We adapt and incorporate technologies like artificial intelligence. So that's kind of what my role is all about. The day in the life of lots of meetings.
Oh yeah. I think the
meetings.
more you grow into leadership positions, it's mostly a lot of strategy meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So lots of meetings on various different topics. Usually either trying to get together and look at options, make decisions, or provide direction. So that's kind of essentially what my day is about. And then, naturally, there will always be challenges and issues that need to be dealt with. So kind of trying to bring different parties together, understand what those issues are, and then work out solutions.
Okay, stakeholder management, decision making, collaboration, providing direction. I speak a lot of corporate, like I said already. So these are mostly your roles.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, let's go back to the conversation that we had. In the introduction, I mentioned that you have evolved over the years and your response to certain experiences has also evolved. Would you like to share something about that?
I think that over time you start to rebuild that confidence that I felt like I had already established myself in my career before immigrating. I felt confident in where I was, but then after the immigration process, I kind of felt like I lost some of that. And then I had to really convince myself and demonstrate to myself that I'm still the same person. I can still achieve what I had achieved back in South Africa. And so that's the evolution. And I think now I feel much more empowered to kind of, speak what's on my mind. So if there's something that I don't agree with, or even if I feel like, or I perceive something that is not fair, then I feel like I can speak out about it. But that took time.
Yeah. You mentioned that you reached 3 months earlier to your family arriving here, right? And that must have taken a lot of toll on your mental health as well.
Yes.
Considering you were alone by yourself and your confidence was plummeting and you were questioning a lot of things. How, if I know it was a dark place, at least for a few months, it must have, I'm sure it must have been a dark place. But how do you bounce yourself back? What kind of steps did you take to bounce yourself back? What experiences made you pull down, and then how did you bounce back?
I think it was just recognizing that you cannot just make a decision based on a short space of time. You have to give something a good shot.
Yeah.
Many times we do something and we feel like it's not going to work out, and you feel demotivated. You feel like it's not the right thing for you, and you give up. I think that something as big as immigrating to a totally different country, we made it that far. We had to ensure that we give it a good shot. And so I think as I started to grow in my work, and I kind of other people started to appreciate my what I brought to the table, it really started to change my mindset a bit.
Okay.
But definitely difficult. It was quite difficult. Like when I first got here by myself, settling in, figuring things out, all by myself. That was overwhelming.
Yeah. Like the first thing I figured out is that there are takeout boxes. That is the first thing I figured out in Canada. And then the second thing I figured out was there is something called a card, compass card, which actually we can use to transit everywhere. The third thing I figured out was credit. I have never used a credit card in my
Okay.
life before coming to Canada.
Right.
India is not a credit driven economy. So the first ever credit card was when I was 32 years old, 31, 32 years old. I moved, and that was my first credit card, and it was an experience. I still struggle with understanding them, but those are all very simple examples of what an immigrant goes through, to the extreme of racism and the way people look at you when you say something like they don't understand, but we are saying the right things, and those are all very deep thoughts that can push you down on an everyday basis. But it is important, like you mentioned, to recognize that it is the time. You have to give it a shot. You have to believe in yourself. You have to think like, oh, there is a future ahead. This is just a small time. It's a small short span. Give it some time, and you're gonna see some changes. Thank you for sharing that.
No, for sure. I think everybody goes through those cycles,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And in the earlier days when you just arrive, the smallest of things can impact you in a very big way. Like certain things, like you go to a store and you call it something different.
Yeah.
And you're trying to find this thing, and you just don't know what the word is. That
Yeah. I have experienced that way too many times. Yeah. Totally.
Like for us, we learned to drive on the other side of the road.
Yeah.
So just adjusting to that was also a process, and I kind of going through all of that by myself was even more challenging.
You must have felt lonely.
Yes.
Okay. We have spoken about how your challenges were as an immigrant when you landed, and we have also spoken about the work that you do and what encompasses into your work circle and all of that. As giving back, you do a lot of mentoring for people, especially to new immigrants. Tell us about that.
So my company partners with the IECBC, Immigration
Employment Council of British Columbia.
Yeah, and so what that organization does is it matches mentors from the workplace with new immigrants, and the role is basically to spend some time trying to help new immigrants understand how things work in our workplace, in the field that they're in, how they can best prepare for interviews and job opportunities, and in some cases, introducing them, helping them expand their network, and ultimately the objective is to help them work towards finding a good job.
That's beautiful. Actually, when because I do multiple things, I have different mentors, and it is essential that you find a good or the right mentor for yourself. Not everybody can be your mentor. And many people have asked me, how do I find the right mentor for me? Do you have advice?
In the professional context, like for me, obviously the one of the first criteria is that we should be somewhat similar, right? Like, because it's career oriented, like we should be in a similar kind of field. And then I think the goals and objectives need to be clear. As a mentee, understanding what you want to achieve and being realistic. Like the mentor is not going to be able to just kind of find your job. It's not just going to happen like that, right? But so it's a two-way engagement and relationship. So I think those are some of the important success factors.
It looks like I'm speaking to my boss. It is so good. No, yeah, seriously, it is so, but a good conversation, a good way. I mean, but it feels like I'm speaking to somebody who comes from a lot of experience, with a lot of structure. Even when the way you frame sentences, right, it is so structured. I love it totally. I consider myself a process person as well. Am I spontaneous? A little bit, but I prefer process. If you follow the process, results are gonna come. That's the kind of person I am, and I totally understand to what you're saying. Like, it is resonating with me. I'm forming some clouds here, which is, oh Monisha, you should do this. Oh Monisha, you should do this. And I'm sure viewers also feeling the same way. Thank you for sharing that. And now I'm gonna fill into some rapid fire round. So because he is very professional, I'm gonna have some professional questions for him. Okay. What is your favorite productivity hack?
Productivity hack. I use the transcription function on my phone. So,
Okay.
like, if I'm driving somewhere and I need to write up a document or something, then I transcribe while I'm driving. So by the time I get to the office, I have a big portion of it written up, and then I can quickly clean it up.
He's a multitasker, man. That is amazing. Cool. Most unexpected challenge you faced as an immigrant?
Most unexpected challenge. The most unexpected challenge was, I guess, having to go through all the English tests and exams and stuff, although my first language is English.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, there's no way to kind of work around it. So that was unexpected. Even though I went to an English-speaking university and everything was in English, but I still had to go through those processes.
Oh, makes sense. In fact, many Nigerians also go through English exams, but their official language is English, which makes no sense. Which is, I don't know. Okay. What is your go-to comfort food?
Go-to comfort food. You ever heard of bunny chow?
Oh, Vishad said the same thing.
Oh no.
Okay.
So he's already given you that.
Enlighten us. We would like to know more.
It's a South African style of food. So usually it's some kind of meat or vegetable curry, but the bowl is bread. Okay. And then you put the curry in there and all the gravy, and it soaks in there, and it's very messy and yeah.
When next time you cook at all, he's an amazing cook, just so you know. Next time you cook at all, please invite me, or I'm gonna invite myself and say for the bunny chow, I'm coming out just out though. Okay, what is the one app you cannot live without?
The one app, I would say right now it's OneNote.
Oh, Microsoft OneNote. Okay.
Yes, because I've kind of arranged all my stuff in there, and it's great to be able to, I can just write my notes up on my phone. I don't really need my laptop. I can find my previous notes. I was still very much the type of person who still had a notebook, and I wrote by hand. But over the last year or 1 to 2 years, I've kind of transitioned away from that.
Okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, superpower. I would want to teleport.
To where?
Wherever I want. Teleport to the beach and come back. Teleport to work and come back.
So you can miss the traffic.
To South Africa and come back.
Yeah. Just
like that.
Okay. Something that you miss most about South Africa?
I guess this would probably be an expected answer, but it's our family. I think everything else, you can adjust, you get accustomed to, and you find different ways of getting what you would be used to back in South Africa. Also, I think it's a give and take. You have to realize that things are not going to be exactly the same, right? So you have to adjust. But like when it comes to family,
you just have the same members, and it's the same family.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. What excites you the most about future in Canada?
There's so much of opportunity, I think.
Yeah.
So in my line of work, I'm working at BC Hydro. There's a lot of focus on electrification, and people know about electric vehicles because that's commonly understood. But moving everything to electricity and moving totally away from fossil fuel, and the changes that would bring to the country, to the economy, to technology, and then, of course, the impact on the planet and climate.
Okay. All right. We have spoken about a lot of things. This feels more like a corporate meeting to me because there was a lot of leadership and productivity questions. Oh, mate. But this is so useful because many new immigrants face the similar challenge of they don't know what next to do because they just have too many things. When I say too many things, even your household, right? You have to do your cleaning. You cannot outsource. I mean, you can outsource. It's gonna be hella expensive, but you can outsource. But you're bound to doing your household. You're bound to taking care of kids. You're doing your work, and there are multiple things they juggle with. Any immigrant.
Yeah.
And it is beautiful, and you have given it a beautiful structure. I'm gonna put the 4Fs in the description also, just so you know you can go back and check it. And his productivity tool, which is Microsoft Notes. For that. Thank you so much, listeners, viewers. Like I said, I'm Monisha here again. I'm the podcast host of Newcomers to Trailblazers. Thank you so much, Irshad, for joining us today. Of course. Thank you. And we are available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. We are also available on YouTube video. Please subscribe to us, like, share our content, share it with the immigrants that you know who needs help. I'm going to put up a LinkedIn profile of Irshad in the description. I'll put up my LinkedIn profile in the description. I'll also put up IEC BC's LinkedIn profile in the description. If you want to be reaching out to Irshad for mentorship, you can reach out to him. You can text him on LinkedIn. I don't know how active he is in LinkedIn though. The look says no, but however, he will find, when he finds time, he will reply to you. Please keep in mind, and if you have a question, if you have a comment, please comment away. We love to listen to you. And if you have a suggestion, if you know somebody who can be featured on the podcast, reach out to me. If you want to be featured on the podcast, reach out to me. But subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful day ahead.